great? Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining tonight's community meeting for the Mystic Shoreline Revitalization Plan process, being hosted by the Mystic River Watershed Association. My name is Carl Alexander. I serve as the Greenways Program Senior Manager for Myra, and I'm joined by some amazing colleagues and a project team here tonight, and we'll do a round of introductions in just a few minutes. First, just a few housekeeping items. And for Zoom, you have Zoom controls at the bottom of your screen. We are recording the meeting and posting the recording to the project webpage. If you do not wish to be recorded, please just feel free to turn off your microphone and camera for the duration of the meeting. We also want to make sure that everyone can adequately receive and take in all of the information we're presenting this evening. We will please ask for folks to remain muted for the duration of the presentation portion. If you have any questions or comments, you can use the chat function located at the bottom of your screen. And we will be having a open Q&A discussion portion where folks can unmute and speak at the end of tonight's presentation. Lastly, one thing that I've found to be really helpful during Zoom presentations is there is a closed captions function located down at the bottom bar, or it might be in the additional options menu. I've just found that to be really helpful over the years. I want to spread that knowledge and love. And then lastly, you can use the raise hand function during our Q&A portion to speak. But throughout the presentation, feel free to send in questions and comments via the chat. First, we'll be providing an introduction to our planning process. Then we will be sharing results from our community engagement efforts, which have helped to shape the vision for our initial design concepts that we're presenting this evening. When presenting those concepts, we're going to also open up and conduct Zoom polling in order to gather all of your thoughts on these initial design ideas. And then we're going to wrap up our presentation by just sharing with you our schedule and next steps before allowing a few minutes for Q&A and discussion. Our tribal acknowledgement at Myra is that we wish to honor and acknowledge the indigenous communities to this region in its past, present, and future. The watershed is on the colonized land of the Massachusetts, Nipmuc, and Pawtucket tribes. And as you explore the watershed, we encourage you to learn with us about its past, present, and current indigenous heritage. Our mission at the Mystic River Watershed Association is to protect and restore the Mystic River and its tributaries. The Mystic Greenways program vision is to connect 25 miles of paths, improve hundreds of acres of parklands, and engage thousands of community members from the Mystic Lakes to Boston Harbor. Underneath that program, there has been a multi-year effort of the Mystic Greenways program to provide universally accessible recreational opportunities along and improve the ecological health of the Mystic Lakes and the Mystic River in Arlington, Winchester, and Medford. Why do this work, do you ask? As everyone probably on tonight's call knows, it's such a remarkable environmental resource that we have here in this region. The Mystic Lakes and the Mystic River are of great historical and cultural significance to this region and serve immense recreational value for both community members, residents, and also visitors. Its present condition, though, can provide some challenges, though, for the environment, habitats, and then also people and park goers. We've heard from community members, the Department of Conservation and Recreation at the state, and also local municipalities that a comprehensive effort is needed to reach across boundaries and work collaboratively to address these persistent concerns. Key areas of address from the existing conditions that we've looked at for the area include limited accessibility, erosion, safety, especially with regards to Mystic Valley Parkway, and also stormwater runoff. Our efforts with the Mystic Shoreline Revitalization Plan process pairs with others in the region, including a planning process for improvements to Mystic Valley Parkway between High Street and Medford, going north to Bacon Street in Winchester along the Mystic Lakes. We're currently working to acquire funding for design development on that portion of work. And also, there is a path improvements project on the Arlington side of the Mystic River and Lower Mystic Lake, and also a safety improvements project for the High Street Rotaries. So that's all underneath the Mystic to Minuteman Path effort here in green. These efforts in Arlington and also at the Rotaries are funded through design development. So please keep an eye out for public engagement opportunities, and those will be announced by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, and also the town of Arlington over the course of this year. The Mystic River Watershed Association are active stakeholders and really look forward to sharing that information with you as well. For the Mystic Shoreline Revitalization Plan process, we are working to identify accessibility and ecological improvements for the eastern shoreline of the Mystic Lakes, as well as the Mystic River in West Medford. We conducted really robust visioning engagement. I'm speaking with community members about the Mystic Lake segment of the eastern shoreline there as part of our 2024 Mystic Lakes Path planning process. And then this year, we conducted additional community engagement to really look at the West Medford shoreline segment. We're going to be presenting this evening initial design concepts for each of these and really look forward to digging in. Again, just to really emphasize and reiterate project goals, things that we really turn back to when working through all these amazing, great ideas, is to improve safety, accessibility, and public health outcomes, improve the ecology of the river and the lakes, and also enhance recreational experience. Included in our work this year are environmental and cultural assessments of the focus area along the shoreline. And then we're going to be developing conceptual designs for different types of accessibility and ecological improvements. At this point in time, no funding is in place to bring us to permitting, final designs, or constructing any of these improvements. This is strictly a planning process. We are also not looking to design any active recreational facilities, such as bike facilities, ball courts, as part of this planning process, or really diving into parking operations around Shannon Beach, which I know is an ongoing struggle. I'll also note too that we are not looking at specifically at the right-of-way for Mystic Valley Parkway, as it's already been the focus of previous planning efforts I mentioned previously. The project team is being led by the Mystic River Watershed Association and consultants at Halverson Teagan Bond Studio, and then also Commonwealth Cultural Resources. Next, we're going to do a quick brief round of introductions of the project team. So I'm first going to hand it over to my colleague, Karina.
Thank you, Carl. Great intro. Good evening, everyone. I'm Karina Ramos, Urban Forestry Project Manager at Myra, supporting this project internally. And tonight I'll be moderating the chat. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop it in there and I will field it for you. Shannon?
Hi, everyone. My name's Shannon. I am the Climate Engagement Associate at the Mystic River Watershed Association and really excited to be here with you all tonight. And I will pass to Bob.
Thanks, Shannon. My name is Bob Uhlig. I'm Vice President of Landscape Architecture and Urban Design at Halverson Teagan Bond Landscape Architecture Studio. And we're really excited to be working with Myra as well as yourselves on this project. It's really exciting, the opportunities before us. Also, I just want to recognize before I turn it over to my colleagues, the work of our environmental sciences and our geographic information systems folks that have helped put a lot of this technical information that you're seeing, as well as contributions from Commonwealth Cultural Archaeological Assessors who've provided cultural resources for us. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Iris Lynn.
Hi, good evening. I'm Iris Lin, a senior landscape architect at Halverson Teagan Bond Studio. Great to join everyone tonight. I'm handing to Jessica.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Choi, landscape architect at Halverson Teagan Bond Studio. excited to be here tonight. And I'll pass it back to Carl.
Great. Thanks, everyone. So for work completed to date, we conducted our environmental and cultural assessments over the winter, field sites, or field work, site visits, etc., and conducted our visioning engagement for the West Medford shoreline again in February and March. These efforts, as well as our engagements efforts last year, have led us to the presentation of initial design concepts here this evening. Our efforts for the West Medford segment of work have also been paralleled and supported by a steering committee of local residents, and just wanted to briefly take a moment to thank all the members of the steering committee as well who have joined us here this evening. Next, I'm going to share with you results from our community engagement efforts. We conducted 2 rounds of community engagement in 2024 for the Mystic Lake segment of our work, and in 2025 for the West Medford segment of our work. During these engagement activities, we shared information about the project and asked 4 questions for feedback. What do you currently like about the areas? What do you currently not like? What would you like to see that currently does not exist? And what do you think we should avoid? We really appreciate everyone's feedback and time on this. We spent a lot of time reviewing thousands of comments that we then broke out into a bunch of different topics across 3 different categories. For the first category is accessibility. And so just from 2024, we received a lot of feedback that helped for guided the planning along Mystic Valley Parkway. So you see some things here that are more along the lines of looking at the parkway. But I think a couple items to point out from there is there was very robust evidence and a desire to improve access to the shoreline through improved crosswalks and safe roadway crossings. Improved areas for slow use like walking, strolling, birding, and then also ensuring ADA and universal accessibility. In 2025, we received similar feedback from our West Medford engagement efforts on easily accessing open space areas in the shoreline, while providing other amenities like signage and benches to ensure that folks feel welcome. For recreation, which is our second category, in both 2024 for the lakes and 2025 for West Medford, community members really emphasize connectivity to the water, the ability to explore natural areas via natural surface paths, and also finding ways to reduce ongoing issues like littering. And here are the results for 2025 in West Medford. Again, pretty consistent results from 2024 up at the lakes. So for the environmental category, both 2024 and 2025 called out a desire for improving natural landscapes and tree canopy while addressing erosion and stormwater. We dove a bit deeper and decided to break out the topics a little bit more in 2025. But again, we saw consistent themes really running throughout the feedback. Next, I'm going to hand things off to my colleagues at Halverson to present the initial design concepts. And now, before I hand things over, though, I do want to say for this portion, we will be having 2 different periods of Zoom polling, and we're going to be sharing a lot of really good information. And so the Zoom polls are going to appear in a small pop-out window when we queue them up and we prompt them. But I do recommend, again, grabbing a pen and a paper or another note-taking device just to help make sure that you're able to jot your thoughts down as we're walking through things. And also if you just prefer to listen to the presentation or unable to participate in the polling, we are launching an online survey tomorrow with identical questions and also conducting tabling opportunities or 2 in-person tabling events next Thursday and Friday, and we'll share that information at the end of tonight's meeting. But for now, I'm going to hand things over to Iris and Jessica, and then after the Mystic Lakes portion, we'll pause for the Zoom polling, and then we'll do the West Medford portion, and then pause for the Zoom polling. All right, Iris and Jessica.
Thank you, Carl. As we first focus on the Misty Lake segment, stretching from the Arjuna River to north of the High Street Rotary, it's important to highlight the unique character of this area. This stretch includes 5 wooded peninsulas that offer secluded scenic views of the lake and feature a well-established network of footpaths. These rainbows along the shoreline and through the woods provide a peaceful natural space within a dense urban setting. However, the landscape is facing more challenges. Unregulated human activity and stormwater runoff have significant increased erosion, particularly along the steep slope and the shoreline. And this not only affects the visual and the recreation quality of this area, but also impact the ecological health of the sensitive natural habitat. Up next, we will walk through the overall improvement, and we are proposing for this area. And then Jessica will take over and dive into some of the more detailed improvement in each of the zoom-in area. Next. So we heard a lot of feedback about the need to make this area safer and easy for access, and that's a major focus of the proposed improvement. To start, the 2004 Mystic Valley Parkway project study recommend adding pedestrian refuge island and the crosswalk at key intersections. This will help people safely cross into the park from surrounding neighborhood. And we are also proposing 4 types of trails, each provide different recreational experience. The 2024 study recommend narrowing the roadway to make room for wider, more comfortable pace that supports slow-moving users like walkers, joggers, and bikers. This plan also include a planting buffer to help manage stormwater and provide a safe green separation between people and traffic. That you can see the graph on the desktop. And next is a accessible paved path showing a solid orange line. The path will connect parking area with key amenity, especially at Shannon Beach Peninsula. Then there is a proposed unpaved path shown in a dashed orange line. The path would use natural unbounded materials like crushed stone, as shown in the photo below. It's designed to be accessible while still having a more rustic feel that fit in with the natural surrounding and connect visitors to the proposed amenity. And finally, we have what we call rainbows, those scheduled woodland trails that wind through the peninsula. Improvement here might include regrading to make it stable and well drained and stabilize nearby slope, and add small barrier to help keep people on the trail and protect the surrounding vegetation. And to help everyone find their way, wayfinding signs are also proposed at major trail intersection to make the experience more intuitive for visitors. Next. So we are recommending a very variety of new site amenity to enhance the experience along the Misty Lake. And these include picnic area, scenic viewpoints with seating, small overlook, and even a non-motorized boat launch. What you are seeing here are examples of the proposed scenic viewpoint. which are most located along the rainbows. And this spot would offer quiet space to sit and take in the view, with selective vegetation clearance to open up sideline without disturbing the natural feel. And sitting could be more traditional, like a bench, or something more informal, like a large boulder or a granite block that blend into the landscape. Next. And we have also identified several potential spots along the trail for overlook, offering a variety of ways for people to connect with the water and the surrounding landscape. And the image here shows two types of overlook we are considering. The first is at trail level. This could be a small platform or paved area where people can pass, take in the views, and enjoy the setting without stepping off the main path. And the second type offers a bit more physical access to the water, using a gentle slope area or terrace steps. This would allow visitors to safely get closer to the shoreline while protecting the landscape from erosion and water. And next. Some of the proposed overlook that provide access to the water could also serve as great spot for non-motorized boat launches like the kayak or canoe. And we have identified a few potential locations across different sections of the lake. They are both close to parking and connect by accessible paths. And this makes it easier for people to carry in their boat and get on the water without needing any extra infrastructure. Next. So here you can see a range of highlight for the potential proposed sitting opportunities throughout the site, whether at overlook or tucked along the trail, giving people a chance to pass, take in the view, and enjoy the surrounding wildlife. And we are imagining a mix of sitting type from more rustic bench to natural element like the granite block. And this variety help blend the sitting into the landscape while still offer comfortable spot to rest and take in the sceneries. Next. So in terms of parking, the proposed parking areas shown here are a combination of improved existing lot and the new space based on the 2004 study. And a few key locations to highlight include that the first is the new parking lot across Shannon Beach, which would support access to the amenity in this area. And a new parking lot near Ravine Road, designed to serve the proposed kayak launch area. And then this update aims to improve access while keeping the overall footprint as low impact as possible. And next. So when it comes to improving the environmental health of this area, we are focusing on a few key strategies. We are recommending shoreline restoration, which include removing invasive species and reintroducing native plants to help restore natural habitat. And we are also proposing the use of bioengineered techniques to help stabilize the shoreline and better manage stormwater. And these approaches are both effective and environmental sensitive and help to protect the lakes while blending nature into the landscape. Next. Okay. And the Mystic Lakes area have a rich cultural history that we want to help bring forward in thoughtful, engaging way. In addition to Native American settlement along the shoreline, This area also includes the historic route of the Middlesex Canal, which passed through the Shannon Beach area, and the Mystic Valley Parkway designed by Olmsted Brothers in the late 19th centuries. And we are recommending the use of interpretive signage or art sculpture to help tell their stories. And the image below shows some creative way of representing history that can spark curiosity and make the experience more meaningful to the visitor. Like the image at the middle here, let's use the glaze and some line work that allow visitors to see the historic structure in the wood. And so Jessica is going to walk you through each area and point out some of the key improvements we are proposing. Hi, Jessica.
Okay, thank you, Iris. All right, so here we are at Area 1 of the Mystic Lake segment, the Shannon Beach Peninsula. And first I'll start off by saying that for the next few slides, we'll start to get more into specific and unique opportunities for each area and focusing a little bit more on those potential overlook locations as well as the rationale behind those. So here in Area 1, we've identified several along the shoreline, two more for visual access. So one of that would be the existing stone overlook that's at the end of that main wide central paved path that follows along the former Middlesex Canal crossing. And improvements here could be just some wall repair, resurfacing the pavement, integrating some bench seating and interpretive signage. Another location that we've identified more for visual access is at the tip of the roundabout road, where we can easily connect back to this accessible paved path network illustrated by these orange lines here. And then the other two potential overlooks we're looking at would provide more physical access to the water, including a non-motorized boat launch opportunity. So we're showing one on the northern side of the peninsula. And on this side of the lake, there doesn't appear to be a launching point on this side already. So we figured we'll kind of test out this idea here. It's also close to the parking lot for easier access. And we've also noticed that the shoreline is pretty flat here and could be facilitated with some kind of ramp if needed. And then the other location would be by Shannon Beach and in front of the existing picnic area. The shoreline here is already heavily eroded, likely from human activity. So an overlook here would help formalize this popular access point while hopefully discouraging shoreline access elsewhere. And next slide, please. So Area 2 will just focus on this little peninsula here. So the priority is to stabilize the heavily eroded shoreline and enhancing the wooded habitat. And we're limiting recreational amenities closer towards the upland side along the multi-use path where the elevation is much higher than the water. There's an existing grove that would be a nice spot to add a small picnic area that's readily accessible from the improved parking lot. And then to the left, we're proposing to provide a scenic viewpoint with bench seating along the path versus allowing people to traverse all the way down, which seems to be currently happening, so that, again, we can focus more on restoring the shoreline habitat here. So instead, on the next slide, in Area 3, here we're actually looking at proposing an overlook with non-motorized boat access here, given that there's a smaller grade change between the path and water, as well as proximity to parking. And I also want to point out that there's currently an open area behind the dam parking lot that's heavily populated with invasive species, and there's also some utility poles and overhead wires, as well as a lack of view sheds in this area. They may limit recreational value here. So this area may be best left to more just invasives cleanup and reforesting with native plantings. Next slide. So this is Area 4, and we'll start at the little peninsula right after the dam. So here we could potentially have kind of more of a deck platform overlook, similar to what's shown in the image above along that section of accessible trail. The shoreline is quite steep here, and the erosion is intensified by a series of stormwater outfalls, as well as the runoff from the roadway. So we can look at locating the over and outfall while working towards revegetating the shoreline and upland areas to help mitigate those erosion issues. And then finally, at the second little peninsula, we've identified a little section of a potential accessible route from the shared use path that would provide a more direct and safe route to a scenic viewpoint along the shoreline. And with that, I'll hand it back to Carl.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And I also want to thank everyone for providing comments in the chat. We'll be looking forward to, Karina's actually going to be popping in with any contextual questions that might help for folks to digest information better. Otherwise, we'll just be noting all of the comments coming through in the chat. And any other questions we'll have an opportunity to address during the Q&A session at the end of the meeting. At this point in time, we'll be pausing for our first Zoom polling session. So in a moment, we're going to launch our first Zoom poll, and we're going to look in each and every one of these individual areas and ask you a few questions. What do you like about the initial design ideas? What would you like? What would you change? What do you think is missing? And any other thoughts that you have. And we're going to do that for 4 items. We're going to do 4 minutes for the Shannon Beach area and then 2 minutes each for the other areas. And once we wrap that up, we'll be transitioning over to the West Medford section. So thanks so much. So first, I'm going to go backwards to the Mystic Lakes area. And Karina, if you'd like to launch the first Zoom poll, I'll start the timer. Okay, great. So again, please take a few minutes now just to jot down your responses to this area. Have a look at the map here. We really look forward to getting your feedback here. And if you do have any clarifying questions, feel free to put them into the chat. I'll be able to address them as we go. But I will try to limit my conversation as well so that you can focus.
Clarifying question in the chat. Are we supposed to put things in the chat? So for this portion, you should receive a Zoom poll that flashed up on your screen, and it'll be here for another 2 minutes for you to comment on just the recreational safety and accessibility, environmental and cultural amenities that are on this map. So the survey is asking for feedback just on this portion of the lakes, which is Shannon Beach.
We are receiving responses, so thank you so much for folks. And for those who might not be seeing the poll, I did see one in the chat who didn't see the poll. You're welcome to put comments directly into the chat, which we'll note and log. Otherwise, as we move on to area number 2, please keep an eye out for a pop out on your screen.
Yeah.
We are coming up on 4 minutes, but it's a very out of all the areas we're presenting tonight, the Shannon Beach area is probably the most detailed. So we'll give it another 30 seconds or so. I think we're doing pretty good on time tonight. So feel free to continue to work on your comments. Give it another 30 minutes, 30 seconds to a minute. Thank you. Ten-second warning, 10-second warning. And again, we will be launching an online survey after tonight. Feel free to drop anything in the chat we may have missed. We'll be tabling in person. But 3, 2, 1. I'm going to end the poll here for area number 1. So thank you so much. Don't mean to stress anyone out. We need to end it at some point. All right, Karina, feel free to launch the Zoom poll for number 2. We'll give it 2.5 minutes, just because it's a smaller area of focus. And while folks are looking at the plans, there's 2 questions in the chat related to the implementation of said improvements. That is an incredible question. This is a planning process, which means that we are looking at a massive geographic area here of vital importance. There's plenty of further design, permitting, conversations with folks across ecological improvements, recreational improvements to be had. The funding sources are all different for all of those different types of improvements. The people who would implement them might be different as well. It might be DCR. MIRA might take on some of those responsibilities. The municipality may support them. And so this is a planning process that helps to identify what improvements we should look further into, what potential funding sources might exist, and also lay out suggested phases for like prioritizing these improvements. And so DCR is aware of this planning effort that we're leading. We've been sharing with them all the deliverables. They've joined our field sites, and we look forward to collaborating with them and all of their stakeholders on the project moving forward. I realize I might be distracting folks from talking, but we will also be sharing the online survey link after tonight's meeting, just to help keep the focus for tonight. Thanks, Karina. All right. I'll stop there, and we'll give it another minute or 2 for responses here. We have about 30 seconds or so for folks to wrap up. Uh, 15-second warning. 3, 2, 1. We'll end this poll. Thank you so much. And move on to area number 3. Feel free to launch the poll. This is the area just north of the Mystic Lakes Dam.
Go away.
Should have lined up some music for tonight. Sorry, everyone.
We always say that, Carl.
Yeah, I know. I always forget. Like, nothing's wrong with a little awkward silence sometimes. So, minute and a half to 2 minutes. About 30 seconds or so. 30 seconds. About 10 more seconds for folks. Three, two, one. All right, thank you. And we will wrap up with the Lower Mystic Lakes area. And Karina, feel free to get the poll going. And I'm going to answer a question in the chat for folks, but I'll be on mute. We'll give 30 seconds to wrap up, please. 30 seconds. Ten seconds. Iris and Jessica, I'll hand things back over to you.
Okay, thanks. I hope everyone have fun so far. And so we are going to share our proposed concept for the West Medford section. And
I'll just pause. Sorry, Iris, before you get started, I think there was a question that might affect like how folks answer moving forward. One question was on the one of the options for the scenic viewpoint. I'll just read the question. Concerned about scenic viewpoints that look like the granite slabs that look like steps. Could they be slippery?
no, because they usually in the typical days they are dry and they are not inundated in water for a long period of time, and the surface always is rough, so it's not slippery.
Thank you.
So I will continue. So this stretch is south of the High Street Rotary to the Boston Avenue Bridge, and it's about 1.2 miles. And this area has a very different feel compared to the Mystic Lake segment. It functions more like a neighborhood riverfront park with open lawn, mature tree growth, and a beautiful view of the Mystic River and several historic bridges. And a footpath runs parallel to both of the shoreline and the adjacent street. It stays mostly leveled, but it varies in width and surface material, make it inaccessible in many places due to uneven grades and conditions. And we have also noted a number of challenges here, including riverbank and upland erosion from unmanaged stormwater and foot traffic, as well as the spread of invasive species along the shoreline and in wooded area. And next, we will go over the overall improvement proposed for this segment, and Jessica will walk you through each of the detailed focus area. Next. So to help improve safety and neighborhood connections, we are proposing new crosswalk at each major intersection, making it easier and safer for people to access the riverfront from nearby streets. And we are also introducing 4 different trail types throughout the segment and tailored to the surrounding context and designed to offer various recreational experience. And the shared use path along Mystic Valley Parkway continues south toward the High Street Rotary. And then it turned east to Arlington and create a key connection for pedestrians and cyclists. And secondly, a paved sidewalk shown here in solid orange line is proposed along Arlington Street and the Mystic River Road, south of the other Rotary, to improve walkability in this more urban edge of the site. And then a proposed unpaved path shown with a dashed orange line will follow the river shoreline. It will be gently graded and made from natural unbounded material, offer an accessible routes that feel more rustic and blends in with the landscape, while also connecting people to nearby amenity. And lately, a few rainbows are also proposed to formalize existing desired path. These trails would not be accessible, but preserve the informal woodland experience for those able to navigate them. Finally, we are recommending wayfinding signage at key trail intersection to help visitors easily understand where they are and where the trail lead. Next. And we are recommending a variety of new site amenity as well for this segment to enhance the experience along the shoreline. This include scenic viewpoint with seating, small overlook, and the non-motorized boat launch. What you are seeing here are examples of proposed scenic viewpoints, which are mostly located along the shoreline path. And the spot would offer quiet place to sit and take in the view, with selective vegetation clearance to open up sideline without disturbing the nature feel. Next. And so here highlight the 2 type of overlook again. And the first type is just the visual access to the water, and the second type is provide physical access to the water, and by using gentle slope area or terrace step. And this will allow visitors to safely get closer to the shoreline while protecting the landscape from erosion and wear. Next. And here highlight the location integrate with the proposed outlook is the boat launch area. So we have like 3 locations in each section. And next, yeah. And the diagram highlight all the sitting opportunity throughout the site, whether the overlook or tuck along the trails give people a chance to pass and take in the views. And we imagine a mix of seating type as well, with some more formal bench seating or like more rustic bench type and informal seating elements as well. Next. So in terms of parking, that here I want to highlight there's a current project going on by City of Medford. It's called Mystic Roadway, Road Improvement. It's between the Harbor Avenue and Fairfield Street. And the proposed realignment of the street provide a narrower driveway with street parking, then a separate bike lane and flush sidewalk. And we think that we are proposing to continue the same alignment toward the Hudson Street. So that the new proposed parking will be adjacent to the boat launch area. And then another boat launch area will be at the end of the Mystic River Road near another boat launch area as well. Next. And when it comes to improving the environmental health of the area, we are focusing on a few key strategies. And we would recommend the shoreline restoration that include removing invasive species and replant with native plants. And we are also proposing using bioengineered technique to help stabilize the shoreline and keep the natural look of the site. Next. And then also like to help managing the stormwater and reduce erosion, we are proposing rain garden and bioswale along key area of the pace, especially in spa where runoff tend to collect and has caused more severe erosion over time. And this green infrastructure element will help slow down and filter stormwater and helping to protect the riverbank and improve water quality. And in some locations, these features are also integrated into the design of proposed overlook. So blending the function and aesthetics while enhancing the visitor experience. Next. So lastly is the cultural and historical feature that we are recommending the use of interpretive signage and artistic element to recognize and celebrate the area's African-American heritage and historic community, along with other notable historical features in this segment. And this element can help tell the story of the neighborhood in a meaningful way and engage the community. And next, Jessica is going to walk you through each area and highlight some of the key improvements we are proposing. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Iris. All right, so here we are, Area 1 in West Medford. So in this peninsula, this area is particularly unique with the presence of a relatively large and flat forested area. So that presents kind of a unique opportunity to incorporate some nature play experiences. So integrating natural elements like stumps, logs, and boulders to invite users to touch and climb and just have a more interactive experience with nature. We're showing two potential locations, one tucked between the wooded and open lawn areas for closer neighborhood access, and another at the tip of the peninsula where we're also proposing a picnic area under an existing tree grove. And then along the shoreline, we've identified three potential overlook locations. So one is more for visual access at the end of that main kind of central path that runs through the middle of the peninsula and kind of located near where the pump station is. And we felt that this would serve as a nice destination point along that main central path and a natural place to just sit and take in the views of the river and the lake. And then two other locations would be more for physical access to the water. So just north of Ravine Road, we felt that that was a good location to formalize a non-motorized boat launch since it is used as such already, and the shoreline is generally flat here. And it's also close to some proposed street parking that was suggested as part of the Mystic Lakes Path project. And then the other location we've located in front of the potential picnic grove area at the peninsula tip, where the shoreline is also fairly flat and erosion is present, likely from some human access. So we felt that it would be a nice way to formalize the activities that seem to occur here already with an overlook feature. And one of the things that we've heard from the first round of public feedback was incorporating some type of art element. So one location for that could be near the entry point at Kilgore Ave and near the open lawn space, just basically somewhere where it could be easily accessed from the neighborhood, the main shared use path, as well as just be more visible and close to a space that may host more community-related events and gatherings. And then from a circulation perspective, we wanted to ensure that all these new improved paths are tied back to adjacent project improvements. So along the Mystic Valley Parkway, we're showing the paths connecting to those various new crosswalks along the road. And then along High Street is that new rotary redesign that's part of the Mystic to Minuteman project. So we're showing the new unpaved accessible path being aligned with the proposed crosswalk that's part of that new design. Next slide, please. So for area 2, so here you can see that new accessible path being aligned with the proposed crosswalk from the rotary redesign, supplemented with wayfinding to help guide people back towards the water with the scenic viewpoint to the arched bridge at High Street. One thing to note at the High Street Bridge, the elevation is higher than the adjacent parkland. So one kind of has to currently walk up and down a slope foot path, which may not be accessible. However, we're proposing to keep those sections of path on either side of the bridge to provide a more direct route across. We're also, as Iris had mentioned earlier, providing a paved sidewalk along Arlington Street to tie back to the Mystic River Road improvements proposed along Duggar Park, which we'll see more of in the next section. And as we approach Mystic River Road, where the land narrows and the runoff gets more severe, here it's a great opportunity to implement green infrastructure, shoreline stabilization, as well as an overlook with non-motorized boat access, given that it be closer to potential street parking along Mystic River Road. Next slide, please. So area 3 is essentially comprised of Duggar Park. So that accessible path that continues along the shoreline, where we're continuing to revegetate and stabilize the shoreline along the way. As we approach the open field from behind the pickleball courts, we're showing a new fence more inland to replace the old chain link fence to prevent balls from rolling into the river, but also to provide more space to clean up and enhance the shoreline vegetation. And as we approach Harvard Ave, to which you, again, similar to what we had before at High Street, you have to take a slope foot path up towards the bridge. While we're keeping that, we're rerouting the accessible path towards the Mystic River Road intersection, where we can look at implementing new crosswalks and curb cuts to provide safer connections between the park and neighborhood. And then as we circle back along Mystic River Road, that's where we have that Mystic River Road improvements. That's providing a flush asphalt sidewalk with new striping for parking and bike facilities, as well as a crosswalk at Fairfield Street and a direct crosswalk connection to the West Medford Community Center. And based on these proposed improvements, we're looking at continuing the paved sidewalk along the rest of Mystic River Road towards Hawthorne, with formalized street parking for easier access to potential shoreline amenities, and also just to have a more pedestrian-friendly street and clearer path network. And going back to that crosswalk that connects to the West Medford Community Center, we felt that this offered a nice opportunity to locate maybe another type of art element that could help celebrate the history of the neighborhood and the community today. Next slide. So in area 4, again, that accessible path continues along the shoreline with benches located every few hundred feet, as well as the paved sidewalk continues along Mystic River Road. And similar to what we saw before, the land kind of pinches down here, and again, we encounter a much more severe erosion. So this is where we're proposing another potential overlook location that could include informal steps and a ramp down to get similar to what you see in those images there. And if space allows, we can also look at fitting in a loading zone or short-term parking spaces to help facilitate access. And in addition to shoreline improvements, rain gardens can help improve upland conditions by capturing that runoff and infiltrating it, which would be especially important here if we're introducing more pavement-like parking. Next slide, please. So now we've entered areas 5 and 6. So this is the last two sections of the West Medford segment and probably the most secluded section. So again, continuing that accessible shoreline path, and that takes us to a scenic viewpoint, kind of at the tip of where the river kind of bends. And here you have views out to the Alewife Brook and Mystic River confluence, the historic Mystic Valley Parkway Bridge, as well as the former Mystic Pump Station building that's on the left side of the map. We're looking at trying to improve accessibility to these areas by providing various path connections back to Jerome and Sharon Streets with wayfinding signage, while also maintaining and enhancing those existing open lawn spaces for passive enjoyment and the many dog walkers that use this part of the site. There is, between those two lawn areas, there is a very large patch of upland invasives. So we definitely want to work towards removing those and potentially reforesting that area with native planting so that we can maintain that kind of wooded feel. And then north of Sharon Street, the accessible path transitions to more of an improved ramble condition that continues all the way to Boston Ave for users who are able to traverse that route. And along the way, we want to enhance an existing scenic viewpoint towards the Boston Avenue Bridge with seating and interpretive signage about the Middlesex Canal. And finally, at the end of our site, we're proposing a stepped access to create a safer and more formal connection up to the Boston Ave Bridge for those who are able to. Next slide. And I think that's it. So I'll pass it back to Carl.
Great. These overall slides here that we're showing can be really helpful, you know, if you're looking at the presentation at a later date. It's very tiny right now. So now we're going to take a few minutes. See here that it's 7:13, so we'll take the next 10 to 15 minutes or so to open up our Zoom polling again. So everyone, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, feel free to grab a pen and a paper or get ready for the Zoom poll to launch. We're going to start off with the West Medford area number 1, peninsula up by the lakes. And we'll give this area about 3 minutes or so to respond. Karina, feel free to launch the poll.
Yep, there's one question, a clarifying question. Can you say more about the path exit to Boston Ave? What that could look like?
Yeah, I can touch on that. Feel free to launch the poll though, just
Okay.
get going. Yeah. So yeah, just to thanks for launching that. It's a very steep grade, and so it would need to be a stepped exit. I think that's you know at our level of planning right now, that's probably the extent of detail that we could really dive into. But imagine probably like just stairs with a railing is probably the most likely potential solution. You know, and I would note there's a lot of chat about operations, noise, jet skis in the chat. We are and use and function of the spaces really do influence design, and we really want to make sure that we are designing spaces that are going to promote use that falls within the regulations of the space. But you know, we would love to kind of regulate the chat a little bit towards the design efforts that we're focusing on here tonight. But just a quick note. Thank you so much though for all of your feedback and thoughts. All right, we'll give another 15 to 30 seconds or so, just so we can keep things moving along. Feel free to close the poll for the first area here, Karina. Open up poll number 2. Give about another minute for this section. Um, Apologies. We'll try to give as much time as possible for completing the poll. If you'd like to put your any responses we missed directly into the chat, we'll definitely log them. We're also launching our online survey after tonight's meeting, or email. We'll share our emails after at the end of the presentation as well. So sorry if we missed you there. We'll give about 15 to 30 more seconds for this area. All right, we'll do 3, 2, 1, and we will close. We're going to go to area number 3. Give about another minute. All right, and we'll do a 10-second countdown here. 3, 2, 1. We'll end the poll. Great, thank you. And now we'll go on to area number 4 here, getting a little bit more secluded here in the neighborhood. We'll launch the poll for area number 4. Let folks keep on providing responses. But thank you so much for taking all of the time this evening to share these thoughts and responses. It truly means so much. Thank you. And we'll give about another minute. Thirty seconds. Ten seconds. And 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the final area. I know we've been breezing through these polls, so thank you for your patience and understanding. It's a lot of ground to cover. All right, we'll give a couple minutes for this final poll as well. We'll give about another minute. Thirty seconds. About 10 seconds. And 3, 2, 1. We'll end the final poll. All right, everyone give yourself a little round of applause. There's a lot of polls to go through. Yay. All right. But we love and appreciate the opportunity to do some live polling while the project team is here. It's an amazing wealth of knowledge. And, we didn't just want to point you to an online survey if you took all the time to attend tonight. So thank you. All right. And again, here's the overall plan concept, initial ideas for the West Medford segment for reference. To wrap up our meeting tonight before staying online for any additional Q&A or discussion. As for next steps, we will be launching our online survey tomorrow. We'll be sending an email with the launch of the survey and all upcoming information to all of tonight's meeting attendees. So keep an eye out for that. If you do want to, the survey is live. So if you do want to just pop in right now, please don't duplicate. If you did go through the whole Zoom poll tonight, please don't duplicate your responses. But if you would like to, if you missed a certain area or would like to check it out, I'm gonna get here just for you to access. So there you go into the meeting chat. We certainly recommend you send the survey to your friends, Brittany. That's a great question. Any and all your friends who might be interested. But we'll have some text that might be helpful for you to just forward it along in the email that we send out tomorrow. So just keep an eye out for that. We are also doing in-person tabling. Some people look at big maps on tables and point to things. We're getting out, and hopefully the weather is going to be good. We're going to be tabling at Duggar Park next Thursday from 3:30 until 5:30. So hopefully we catch both the after school and the after work crowd a little bit. If it's raining or inclement weather, we're going to be going into the West Medford Community Center for that. And then also again on Friday up at Shannon Beach in Winchester. And then if it's inclement weather, we have a shorter window from 4 until 5:15 at the Winchester Public Library. Again, we'll be sharing that information in our follow-up email. Myra has so many amazing, great programs, so many efforts going on from climate resiliency to water quality to air quality to environmental justice. Stay tuned and informed by joining our newsletter as an organization. So shout out to Karina and Shannon and everyone else for all their great work and collaboration. And stay involved this spring. We will have our final public meeting scheduled for the project where we're going to be presenting our refined design after we get all of our survey feedback in June. So keep an eye out for there. As registering for tonight's meeting, we're adding you to our listserv. You can always email us and say you want off, but you'll get a notification and email, and we'll be really putting the word out for that last final meeting as well. So please keep an eye out for that. And with that being said, thank you so much for joining tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your very busy schedules on such a lovely evening. We have our contact information listed here, both my information and Shannon's. Our offices are in Arlington Center. Come by, check it out, say hi. We're very close by, and we're in the area a lot. So please don't hesitate to reach out. And with that, though, would like to also open up to any Q&A or discussion folks have. If you would like to elaborate or talk further on a certain topic. more than happy to stick on for a couple more minutes. So just have some Zoom instructions here, and I can, we can filter through to like different slides if in case folks have any particular questions. So feel free to use the raise hand function, would probably be the most courteous for everyone. If you have any questions or thoughts, or just want to chat. Thanks again. Hey, Marilyn.
Yes, the question I had in the chat, let me clarify. I had seen that in one of the reports that they were going to uh, make a reduction by one lane on the Mystic Valley Parkway. And obviously, we know it's one way going in both directions. So we wanted to get clarification as to what they were looking to do. Were they looking to narrow the road or, so that's all that was.
Yeah, great question, Marilyn. Hopefully I'll bet we can narrow this down as best as possible. Obviously I don't work for DCR, but I got a relatively good sense of things in the area. So are you thinking about Mystic Valley Parkway in a particular segment or area? Because it kind of branches in different areas and goes through a bunch of different communities. And then there's the Mystic River Road project just outside the West Medford Community Center. So I'm not sure which particular geographic area you're thinking about, or if you're
Yeah,
thinking about.
especially that area by um, the community center and obviously the larger Mystic River Valley Parkway there,
Got it.
going up to High Street between Boston Ave High Street.
Yeah. So I think that I think that the location that's one way in one direction is right outside the West Medford Community Center. And so despite it being very, very wide, it's already one way. Um, and so I think that project may have already just broken ground. Um, and then so like that whole area, it's a one way just outside of Duggar Park. And then for all of the other areas for Mystic Valley Parkway, up, along the river here in Arlington and then along the Mystic Lakes, it's one way in each direction. And I haven't seen any plans that are proposing to change that at all. I do know
So
that,
would you go back up? So by the community center, are you saying they're looking to narrow that?
yes, there is a project that DCR is doing here. And actually, Iris and Jessica put together a really nice diagram here.
Yeah.
So it basically it adds a formalized lane of parking, a space for people to bike in the opposite direction of the traffic, and then a protected sidewalk, flush sidewalk area as well. And so it doesn't change like the directionality of the traffic or the lanes of the traffic. It just kind of narrows the roadway a little bit for folks driving.
I'd be concerned about the narrowing there, so I'd have to look into that more.
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, absolutely. And I think we did. I can also, Marilyn, I can follow up with an email. Well, I can send you like this diagram and a link to the plans that I think DCR finalized. Um,
That would be great. Thank you.
sure. See here. Who is next? Aria.
Hello. One thing that I wanted to talk about that I don't think I got to explain very well in the poll. I'm a little bit concerned about the proposal for benches to have some of them be like more rustic, like more stone, and then have other ones that are like regular benches that have like backs. I'm just particularly worried because um, I know that some people will definitely probably not have the same amount of mobility as others, and they might have things like back issues, things like that. And with those, the pictures of the stone ones that we saw, they didn't have any backs or anything like that. And so that was just something that I wanted to bring up as a possibility. And just so, yeah. It may seem a little silly, I'm sorry. Just
No, we get down in the details, Aria. This is a really, really great comment. I'm not sure if Iris or Jessica maybe spoke verbally about different types of benches or seating. I do know that the Department of Conservation and Recreation on their land and property, they have a very specific bench design intended for universal access. And so DCR has one bench, and they use that one bench because it allows and enables use for people of all different mobility types, or different different needs. And so any benches that you would see here, I would strongly, and depending on the final, team to advance the designs and ultimately pay for the construction, would need to follow DCR's universal access guidelines for benches. Um, so you have another fan in your court here, to make sure that that's the case. Sure. All right. Well, leave another minute or two for any final thoughts coming through the door, but it's certainly past dinner time, so I'd be more than happy to log off if there are no other thoughts or ideas. If anyone else is still online and had the question about stormwater, I think that's a really good, what are we addressing stormwater or riverine flooding, just given a changing climate? We are looking at mostly like erosion and stormwater management for this planning scope. Um, but at the same time, Mystic River Water Association as a whole are working with regional partners on addressing riverine flooding. I think that's a really good point, and we should really talk to our ecological resilience program managers, just to hear their thoughts on the designs. We're not going into that level of engineering details to help out with riverine flooding in specific areas. And I'll give you an example. When we did go into that level of detail, was at Blessing of the Bay Park in Somerville, which is a DCR-owned space. We envisioned park improvements similar to what we're looking at tonight, with a berm on DCR, with a raised berm on DCR property to protect from riverine flooding. And 8 years on from, or 7 years on from when that plan was finalized, DCR is no closer to even considering constructing a raised berm on their property at that location. And so that's not to say that it's not valuable to include in these planning processes, but sometimes it is helpful to maybe consider the more like, how do people enjoy these spaces, maybe address urban heat in order to enjoy these spaces in the near term, while still also considering these longer term flooding impacts. We are working on upstream and downstream flood interventions as well. Happy to go down a huge rabbit hole on that, but it's a really complicated and very important discussion, and we'll definitely follow up on it. Marilyn.
Just related to that, I was reading one of the reports that was speaking about the water quality. It seems to go from excellent going north, and then as it goes south, the water quality goes down from A plus to, I think, B minus around the West Medford area. And so I was wondering, with your projects here, um, nothing is mentioned, but obviously all of these projects should help to hopefully mitigate that. But I guess I'm wondering, are the impacts actually measured so we know what's happening over the long term with respect to the ecological effects?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much and so core to what we do as an organization. And I typically work on our greenways, and so I'm more of a land-based person. But Karina and Shannon, feel free to chime in here. But when it comes to water quality, there's a lot of inputs that can dictate it. Like, it might be stormwater runoff, the combined sewage overflows that are more in like West Medford, Somerville area, more where like Alewife Brook is, and then going out towards Boston Harbor, and then the sewage outfalls. And it really all, and basically the more that the water has a chance to move and flush things out, the better water quality is going to be, immediately after heavy rainfall, or these different kind of extreme, precipitation events. And a lot of the tributaries actually, and so like less maybe like upstream, downstream, but more like the smaller tributaries like the Alewife Brook, the Aberjona River, which is actually upstream, Chelsea Creek, down in Chelsea, they don't really have much, the very highly contaminated water sources from also legacy of industry and commercial activity over the years. And so, the actual Mystic River itself, as it flows, like you have this big open water body, at the upper and lower Mystic Lakes, it has an opportunity to really filter through different contaminants. As the river gets smaller and the flow gets less intense, then the water quality degrades a little bit, and then it gets better as you get out to Mystic River. And so, yeah, with all these improvements, though, we're definitely, like I said, we're really looking closely at like stormwater for this particular project and effort, but like we have a whole team of folks working on this. And Karina and Shannon, I hope I didn't completely mess that up, but I think it's an ongoing effort, and it's tens of millions of dollars to address things like the sewage outfalls and the sewage overflows, which are really really bad. My parents live off of Alewife Parkway in Cambridge, and like the fact that they might be walking through raw sewage when it rains a lot is very concerning. Um,
Okay. Well, thank you.
sure,
Could I ask a question?
sure, Christine.
Are you considering pedestrian signals on High Street at the rotaries? I mean, both of them. I think that those two rotaries in particular are dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists. So are you considering pedestrian warning signals?
Great question. And so I think the short answer is yes. For this planning process, we're looking at like the shoreline improvements. The rotaries were included as part of a planning study that was done a couple years ago and has now actually been adopted for design and construction. So, in a few years' time, there will be safety improvements. That is the number one thing. We've gone through all of these engagement processes. The rotaries at High Street are like the number one thing that comes up, and it's really tragic. We had a pedestrian death earlier this year just north of the rotaries, and it's tragic. And so pedestrian signalization and protected intersections are on the docket for the constructed version of the rotary improvements. DCR is finalizing striping plans to make the rotaries safer in the near term. I haven't gotten clarity yet as to whether or not they're doing crosswalk improvements as part of that work this year, but they're restriping the rotaries though to slow cars down. It's a $10 million project in total between the rotaries and then also looking at the Arlington side of Mystic Valley Parkway. So it's going to take a few years in order to go through the design process and permitting and get things on the ground. So it's a huge pressing need.
One other question I had, although I pretty much know the answer, you have a number of picnic areas, but I didn't see where you had any restrooms. Is this something that you're considering or not considering, or?
Yeah, I think we talked about that a little. Turning to Iris and Jessica, we talked about like maybe like restrooms at like Duggar Park previously, very briefly, and that's something we can consider putting in. Something right now for DCR as simple as a new trash can in a new location is a really big thing. Time and time again, though, when we do, talk about work like this, public restrooms and access to public restrooms is really important. I have an 18-month-old at home, so I completely get that. If there was a new public restroom location, is there anywhere in particular that you would suggest?
Well, I think Duggar Park is one, but the other area I was thinking of was up just below the Winchester Boat Club, where you have a little peninsula with a good-sized parking area and a picnic area. Yes, there, whoops.
I'm trying to find it here.
It's the furthest, I guess you'd say west. No, that's the Medford Boat Club. It will be further, yeah, in that area.
On the Arlington Winchester side or on this side?
Oh, this is Medford Winchester, I believe.
Yes. So there is the new boat. There's the new restrooms at the boathouse.
Okay.
At Shannon Beach opened up, right?
Okay, well, that's fine. I didn't realize they were there.
Oh yeah, they're beautiful. They opened up last year with other improvements to the beach. They're closed in the off season, which is another, question about operations, but they're really nice.
Well, that's good. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Sure.
We definitely have a need for more parking all along this project. And I guess one potential place to get more parking is by the Tufts Boathouse. If we could look at that map. And
Yep.
It looks like you just as you enter this area, it looks like you changed this sort of a dirt parking area there that used to hold 20 or 25 cars. And it looks like you've actually taken away some spots from there by putting this little parking area where there's only about 12 spaces. This area gets a lot of use in the warmer weather. And if we could go, at least keep the same parking spots and not making it less. But there's also potential at the very top of the park when you go in and turn up to the right by the Tufts Boathouse. There used to be parking further up there, and that was taken away when the dam was rebuilt. And if we could add more parking up in there, back to where it was. It wasn't paved, but it was parking areas. Another space would be down by High Street for a potential parking lot or parking spaces. If we could go to that map, it's just such a big need for parking in the summer months. So on either side of High Street, there could be a parking lot. I know they're not pretty, but they are essential. And or all along where you propose parking at Duggar Park, if that could be perpendicular parking, you get a lot more spaces in there, and all the way up to High Street if you could do that. I'm totally opposed to the parking that you did include between Kilgore and Ravine Road. I live right at the corner of Lakeview, and I was there when the gentleman got killed this winter in the only crosswalk along the parkway there. So putting cars there was just going to make it harder for people to cross there. At Ravine Road, if you're trying to get onto the parkway from Ravine Road, even just driving, it's a very dangerous curve there. It's hard to see the cars coming from your right, and to put parked cars on your left and make that harder to see cars. It's just, you're asking for trouble with putting parking along those two blocks. So that's my input.
Yeah, thanks, Bill. And I'd encourage you. So on the website that we linked, mysticriver.org/Mystic Shoreline, we have the plan that we produced for Mystic Valley Parkway between High Street in Medford, going up north along the lakes to Bacon Street in Winchester that we produced last year. And so that plan is the one that outlined the kind of formalization of the parking at the entrance of the Mystic Lakes Dam, reconfiguration of the smaller parking areas along the parkway as you head towards Shannon Beach, and then suggested a new parking area across Mystic Valley Parkway, or sorry, across from the existing Shannon Beach parking lot. in a lot of cases, it's and looking effectively, to a drainage, like when you add parking to it, it's the opportunity to better manage stormwater. But, we obviously don't want to compromise any, open spaces by adding new parking. Um, and and so, I think for the, formalization of the spaces over by the dam, it would probably reduce it by a few spaces. More design would need to go in terms of how many parking spaces should actually go there. Um, but definitely duly noted. And yeah, I mean, we'll take your comments into consideration. Parking demand management is a whole nother field, and so making sure that you're right-sizing the amount of parking without creating too much or too little is a big thing, especially when you have an area like here or like public beaches where you have like 5 days in the summer where you are just completely, exceeding demand versus the other times of year, right? So it's an ongoing conversation and really appreciate your comment on that.
Yeah, well, it's certainly more than 5 days. It's every
Yeah.
weekend, all summer.
Yeah.
And what ends
Oh,
up
yeah.
happening is they park in the neighborhoods and it overwhelms the parking. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Actually, I have a question, kind of the flip side of this parking, and I haven't seen it addressed anywhere. Are they all along Duggar Park and along the Mystic River Road there? People habitually park on the dirt because there are no curbs along the road. Now, I know Medford is reconfiguring the spot by the park. Uh, but are they going to be in doing something that is going to prevent people from parking on the grassy or dirt areas because they've eroded the grass away? I'm just curious if that's going to be control the parking, which may end up reducing some of it. But I understand the need for parking, but I also want to preserve the shoreline.
Yeah. If you think about the area kind of like, so I'm showing like Arlington Street here, like this area.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's why, I mean, when we did our engagement too, people were really, concerned about just having a safe place to walk to the park, right?
Yeah,
And so that's why we've included proposing a sidewalk here.
yeah,
Adding impervious surface is another whole question in terms of ecology, but adding a curb here
yeah,
would allow for better stormwater management and also
yeah.
prevent people from parking on grass or on open space.
Yeah,
That current section of
that would be
spot
wonderful.
at Arlington Street has like big granite blocks that kind of prevent the parking. I think those things are
Right.
missing at the lower end of Mystic River Road by the parks down there. There's just like a guardrail, which is kind of further away from the road, and also um, lack thereof, like near the basketball courts, which I think is where was being referred to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian. All right. Well, we are coming up on 8 o'clock, so last final couple minutes maybe for discussion here. Any
I
other?
had one other thing to comment on.
Yeah, sure.
Some of the paths and additions obviously get pretty close to people's existing homes, backyards, front yards, wherever it be. Maybe not in this example here. The sidewalk, obviously, the street, that's public space. But like in this example here, I know there's like houses. I've gone on that like path behind there between here and the bridge, and houses get pretty close back there. Is there any plan to prevent the wandering soul from just going into people's yards through the lightly wooded areas there?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think there are some like there's some fencing right now, to everyone's property. Because it's such a tight area, there need to be a lot of discussion with the butters on making sure it's an appropriate design. And I think that there have been encroachments over the years on public land, because it's a very seldomly used area. I totally understand. And so, especially in that area, we've had a lot of discussion about that. We wanted to propose the idea of a fully connected system here. But it would involve definitely a lot of discussion about that, just to make sure that it's like a comfortable path forward, unintended.
I have one more question about lighting. What type of lighting and how much lighting will there be along these paths?
The direction that we've provided Iris, Jessica, and Bob, and the design team is really only, and that was based off of the feedback that we got from the engagement, was to really just look at areas of real like kind of public safety, I'm concerned. So places like the shoreline itself is intended to be a dawn to dusk area. But if at key intersections, making sure that folks are safe crossing the road, and then there's some pendant lighting along the, I'm just gonna scroll up real quick to the like, um, along the Mystic Lakes, like last year when we did the planning process for the parkway, continuing the pendant lighting that already exists, the pedestrian lighting in the Winchester side of things, continuing it all the way down the parkway so that there's like pedestrian and public safety on the roadway rather than immediately on the shoreline. So again, the shoreline's intended to be a dawn to dusk area. It's regulated as a dawn to dusk area, but the focus would be more on pedestrian safety.
I see. Thank you.
Sure. Well, with that, we're at 8 o'clock. Again, I'll just float our email address here in case you want to have a follow-up conversation. But thank you so much for joining this evening. I hope you have a really nice night and take care. Take care, and looking forward to keeping in touch. All right. Have a good night. Feel free to stop the recording, Karina. We know folks love to